Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing as well as they can. Hopefully, that's a good thing. Uh, we will, I think the next 2 weeks we'll be away at a cottage, so we will have to cancel the next 2 weeks. And
We'll
then
be back the 20th of August.
back on the 20th of August. Great. Okay. This one is from Estelle here in Ottawa. And she says, I loved your fable, epilogue and a fable at the end of your book. I can relate to the parts, and other parts give me hope. I'm starting to realize that the importance or interest I place on personality is ultimately what is getting in my way. It is the majority of what I work on. When the personality is softened, it brings me calmness and peace and makes me realize how tiresome it is working with the personality. I think that's true for all of us, without trying to become perfect. It is not always softened, but is a relief when it is. I feel that this is the road I travel. We're in the same boat, Estelle. Okay. Is this what you are referring to when you say on page 289, and I quote, let me grab the page first. And she's talking about my book, I guess. Okay. The words are interest in your personality being important for being spiritual was diminished. And I think she's, if any of you can remember that story, it was a story about a spiritual traveler who was moving through the Himalayas, and he was a young man, and he was doing his very best, and he encountered an individual who was pretty pompous, a little bit arrogant, and he was dressed in wonderful colors, those implying the personality was full of itself, which most of our personalities can be from time to time. And he was an individual seemingly separate from the young man that was a traveler. And then he meets his master in the Himalayas, and he is engaging in such a manner that he's happy to meet him, and he's simply very glad that he did meet him. And then he says that he'll look after this guy, and of course the young man thinks he might have wiped him out. And he says, you see, as you continue on your journey, you are changing levels within the personality structure, but beyond the personality structure. Deep within, interest in your personality being important for being spiritual was diminished. That's her words that she's focusing on. And your past imagined value, this remains in you, but at your present inner state, it is not called upon. So in fact, that individual was part of the young man, and he was pretty pleased with himself because he was walking in the Himalayas, trying to find a spiritual path. And this metaphorical other individual who engaged with him came into view, and he didn't, of course, know that that was a metaphor of him, and so on and so forth. I hope everyone got that particular place, and anyway, it goes on. But at your present inner state, the young man is changed inside. It is not called upon. So now the real worlds can be known to you, known by you. You are no longer of the image of your past inclinations. You did not destroy it, mused the apprentice. No, you are within and without it. But it is but an empty form created for your use and for engagements with others, should it be needed. But it is now changed. And so, you can seek and find much greater worlds through the energy blend. You will know many others in a similar journey. And then I go on to explain the metaphor. Might be interesting to read that last metaphorical story. It covers territory, of course, that relates to us all as individuals and many in the world who are growing spiritually. And there's no negativity to it. It's what begins to happen. There is an acting out of the personality related to spiritual growth. But you still have those inner parts in you that were there before, that you believe are gone now. They're not gone. They are still there. And they may be called upon under certain circumstances to engage. And if they are, it could be really reflexive. And the engagement with those forms allow you to take a look and try to attempt to see how we each individually have the capability of functioning in some pretty strange manners from time to time, which are normally related to reflex reactions. And this is a reality. It's not just some kind of thing that you make up. They occur. And it's very frustrating for you when they happen. But at the same time, thinking that you can become a perfect personality is not real. What you're trying to do is have the ability to perceive you or others where they are. The dilemma is others will never believe you can perceive it. So you're better to keep your mouth shut about it. The dilemma with that is you begin to realize that others and you grow in relationship to how you are inside. And it can be frustrating from time to time. But let's get back to the question. Is this what you are referring to when you say on page 289, and I quote, and we just did, interest in your personality being important for being spiritual was diminished? You know, it's really interesting how that begins to work. And there are all kinds of vulnerabilities around this particular question. But truly, you engage with your physical system and all kinds of image engagements with that. Your emotional system, same thing, image engagements with that. You have images of how you are, images of how you seem to be or want to be, and values are intermittent within that construct, the same as a mental facility. Your mental facility covers all kinds of territory. Yes, if you believe you're really highly touted mentally, then you may be. But in some places, not very much. Your reflexive system engages in a kind of a form that is constantly shifting and moving and defending that form. You, as a reflexive energy form, defend the form that you are aware of. Defend the form that you are aware of. But it cannot perceive the form you are not aware of. It is the nature of us to have that be true. We prefer not to have that true because our preference is to engage in a certain way for a certain purpose under certain circumstances that we believe we should be like or maintain a value as such. In this story, I tried to help us all to understand the relationship that we have with ourselves. We have these images, and we do not want to let them go, because most of them are not real. But we believe without them, we are nothing. In fact, those images are frames throughout our lives. They are frames that we have learned relative to our backgrounds. And there's another frame, and then another frame, and another frame. And some you want to maintain all the time. Some you use under certain circumstances. It's like a slide that comes in. Tells you about my interaction with technology. And another, I think the term is now called files, where you have a file here and a file there and a file there and a file there, and you pull the file out. You're not using that one today. We're using this one. This one is dominant. And therefore, all our accoutrements that relate to personalizations go to that particular file. Cannot perceive any other file. Its focuses on that file. And that is a file that becomes extremely important, and the maintenance of that file is stringent. It's truly valuable. This thing we call personality has many files like that. Emotional, physical, and mental, but they have an overhanging file that encloses itself around itself, and strangely enough, it can shift in and out of a certain way of being in a nanosecond to engage in a certain manner that is based on some unknown way of you needing to be this way or versus that way. Causes a lot of problems within the self. But if you don't see those problems, they don't exist. And this is the nature of how we function. It's very fascinating, but disturbing. It can feel chaotic. It can feel kindness and joy and respect and a whole bunch of stuff that is really very positive. But if you disturb that underlying file, which is important in your way of functioning, where your total core belief is focused on protecting against becoming less than that file, then you go blind. And it's normal to do so. So you can test this, when you're engaging with other folks, you will see things in them they can't see themselves. It doesn't mean what you're seeing is true. You are seeing through a filter of how that other person must be, and you're engaging with that filter. You're seeing their filter through your filter. And this is a dilemma. Because, truly, there is a place within that where you can see both filters. But that is against often the view that's necessary in relationship to moving away from the protective area. In some, what we call it, beliefs in psychology, that is often called a fictive goal. It's fictional, or not quite as true as what you believe. And a fictive goal in everyone, fiction in everyone, relative to being perfectly right versus perfectly wrong, within is held in a position to validate the individual, all of us. However, when there is a growing that goes on, it broadens out that number of ways of being. It shifts it so that up here, you can be engaged with one state, here a different state, here a different state, here a different state, here a different state. Now, one would think that this one you would love the most. But this is not real. Acting like this one you will love the most because that preserves the ones that you've already constructed. Validating the ones you've constructed as if you are on a higher state makes this whole system kind of a fabrication, but only related to the higher state. It is not a fabrication in the lower systems. It is how you have learned to function and survive in a manner that where you feel comforted by how you function. And that holds you in a position that is truly unable to be noted by the individual who has this, which means pretty well 100% of the population. But that is not negative per se. That is a focus on this system where basically the species functions. Basically where we are. And therefore, what we do is we defend that functioning system out of fear that it may change if we actually begin to know how we truly are. It can be uncomfortable, but it leaves an opening to engage with another level. You do not lose how you normally function. You begin to see it more. That can cause difficulty. Then you will think there is something wrong. And there is nothing wrong. It's just you're seeing better than you could before in a place where you might not want to maintain that particular way of being, but you already have been doing that before. Unknown. Because now you're seeing better. What you were being before. Just engaging that way. Not all the time. From time to time. Interactive relative to the need to protect the core system that has been naturally and normally developed so that you could function. There is a very hard area here where there truly is a great fear of losing a particular way of acting, because that's part of the core system that nobody knows, except it's not true that nobody knows it. In our world, many of us, in fact all of us, under certain circumstances, allow those core systems of others to be okay because we're not perfect. However, if you get stuck in a place where you believe that you are more perfect than others, then you blind yourself from seeing how you function. And it happens to all of us. But it's important to know that that might be true. So therefore, this particular fable is a fable constructed for the purpose of understanding. And in those words that I repeated, that the master who is able to perceive these things, that particular one, can perceive those things and says, no, it's not. Why would you kill that? You wouldn't do that. But because you can perceive just a little beyond how it dresses up, and the dressing up is physically, emotionally, and mentally, if you follow the dialogue that went on, then the dressing up is kind of how you get through the engagement that you have with the world. But the dressing up can find a softer balance, or a balance slightly, the best you can, different than you had before. You do not have to be that dressing. It's not always called for. The closer you get to perceiving it, the closer you defend it until you can see it. And then you have to be careful. You don't begrudge it, think it's terrible. As that question is there, it is not always softened, but a relief when it is. I feel that this is the road I travel. It's the road we all travel still. But it's difficult to allow that. You see, we are set up so that we must protect what we don't know as the core of our being without knowing it. So in the unconscious, there's a reflex set up because it's a constructed system. That past reflex within us preserves our right to always be right. Or some other personality construct, wrong. Or some other personality in the middle, with a tendency to go this way or that way. Tried to show that in the process of a continuum, and we are always moving the needle here, there, back and forth, up and there for whatever reasons. That is us helping to maintain a kind of flow that validates the necessity we have to be liked by others, believed by others, being of value somehow. Each of us are valuable no matter what. So if someone becomes more valuable, then there's a jealousy thing. No, they're not as valuable. There must be something wrong with them. So you can pick a hole in anybody, because that's the way it works. Nobody is perfect. Then you will defend against any holes picked in you. Or you may say, I didn't know that. Or you might say something in between. Anything. But you're still defending the structure that you don't know fully exists in you. Because it is the nature of us. Oh boy. So in having that, the nature of us, it makes it difficult to let go for any time. Because if you let go once, you're gonna let go twice. If you let go 15 times, depending on your limit, I have let go 15 times, and they have only let go 12. I'm much more important than they are. That is just the fundamental childish way of looking at life. And we all have that from time to time. It's the nature of being nervous about letting go too much. Somehow, in our world, you may be taken advantage of. And that means, if you believe that, then you will never let go once. And if you do it in your own terms. And those terms are related to the core structure of how you need to be for the purpose of you being validated in the way you believe you need to be validated, to be the valued person that you believe you need to be, no matter what. Yeah, something like that. It's weird, but it's there. One of the most important things, a little bit of letting go, and you start to, you get nervous, but you can feel that flow. And you can actually feel it for a second or two. And it's loving. It's caring. In other words, your mental or emotional way of seeing things is noted by you in a different way than it was before, and it affects your body. You let go. Now, many in the first 150,000 years of her learning how to do that, I guess, you fall asleep instantly. Why? Because you can't maintain a conscious focus on that letting go without thinking you let go. I'm really good. I've let go. So, for a second you did, and then you're back again. I let go. That's a big dilemma in our world because it's a little bit fanciful in relationship to becoming really important because you let go of something. And that is like another feather in your cap. And therefore, you're right back into your own self again. It's how it works. That's why it's always okay to remember. You grow through you. I grow through me. You grow through you. It hasn't got anything to do with being more important than somebody else or less important than somebody else. And that's the hard part for us to make sense of. There's always this gameplay, used to be called, where you do this, we got 100 people in a meditation community somewhere, and there you go. You were the first one to let go. Well, maybe not the first. Maybe the 51st, but oh God, 51st, I'm in the upper half. It's really important. Yeah. The last person to let go in that community may have no interest in 99 others letting go before them. because they can perceive something in that moment that is beyond the need to be validated by what you see. Just not very interesting. Very fascinating stuff. I've been at it a long time. Some of you have been at it a fair length of time. Good for you. Do what you can. Try not to let anybody interfere with that. What do I mean by that? Well, in the West, if you've been meditating for 10 years, you're extra special. Baloney. If you've been meditating for 55 years, you're extra special. Baloney. You're a person who engages and attempts to be and do the best you can. That's all it's called for. Do what you can. Look for support. And you will find it from yourself first, because you will evaluate you. Some will evaluate you as, oh, this is really hard and this is really... Ignore you. Others will be, yes, I've done this and I've done that. Ignore them. Do what you can. That is really valuable. And if you can't, don't disturb anybody else. Let them do them. Help where you can, because you will then be aligned with those who are truly helping. Truly helping to move folks inside, not in a manner that relates to them not being good because they're not doing this and they're not doing that, but in a way that relates to because you can grow a little bit, others will. And don't impose your will on anybody, the best you can. Try that on for size. You will find that very difficult, because we are brought up in a very willful world, and without it, we are considered not valuable. Be not valuable in that case. It will be exceedingly valuable. So, this question is a shining question. Very difficult to listen to and answer. And from my point of view, pretty doggone interesting. And remember, it's okay to be happy. You don't have to be miserable. It's all right. If you're miserable, notice it. Don't blame it on anybody else. Try to be as happy as you can. Find the middle ground of your version of what happy is. And don't manipulate anybody else's version just so you can feel happier. Because you will not notice it. That's normal in all of our worlds. But be okay. Everyone listening, no matter who it is, you're all doing as well as you can. And thankfully, that's a good thing. And a valuable thing. Little tiny, real growing is exceptionally helpful. And for that, I would be very grateful. And so would you. If anyone else is growing out there, they can be helpful to all of us. So, let me try another one. Thanks, Estelle. Interesting question. This one is from Pat Donahue, New Jersey. She says, I've been listening to a podcast that talks about non-speaking autistics who communicate telepathically with other non-speakers across the world. When one of them died, they all knew the moment he passed, and he spoke to them about his new life working with children in another space. He described as happy, blissful, much like as many think of as his heaven. There is also much written about near death and about near death experiences that are also described in blissful terms, with much in common regardless of their beliefs about the afterlife. What is the relationship? Oh gosh. What is the relationship of any given individual to these kinds of experiences? How do I answer this question? I should show you, would you do me a favor, Maureen? Downstairs, right at the bottom, down at the bottom, near the bottom shelf on the left-hand side, there's a book on autism.
Downstairs?
Yeah.
Which part of the shelf?
It'll be first or second shelf, and it's red and white.
At the bottom of the stairs?
Yeah, bottom of the stairs. There is an interesting book on autism. It does not cover this. I've read this book because I've been interested in this particular area for quite a long time. It doesn't mean I know anything about autism. It just means I've read this book. And I would, for those of you who are interested in this kind of thing, I would recommend this book for anybody. It has experiential pieces in it. In other words, people who are stories about people who are real and truly involved with autism and scientific aspects as well, which may or may not clear up a lot of stuff about autism. But I would recommend it, and Marlene is going to bring it up. I'm sure she'll catch it. She'll get it. And I'll give you the name of the book. First of all, I'm going to talk about podcasts. There's a lot of stuff out there that is just nonsense. And it is polished. And it's set up by AI, some of it, and some of it is just set up by people who have a particular view and have heard through the grapevine many different stories, but they're not necessarily real. So I warn you about that, because I've been looking at these things and I think, how did they get on podcasts like that? But also about near-death experiences, I'm just waiting for Maureen. There's been a lot. Okay, I'm going to go and look myself. Let me see if I can find it. I'll be right back. see it either, Maureen. I thought I saw it the other day. So, I apologize, you guys. I don't see it either, and I will look for it. I have the funny feeling I might have loaned it to somebody, and it will come to mind. And if I can, I will, for those who are interested, I will give them the name of the book and the author. Quite an interesting book. It's a little thick, but very interesting. And a lot of research, a lot of personal stories, real ones, well documented, and well researched. Good, solid research all over the US and Canada, actually, and a little bit farther afield. So, in relationship to this, what is the relationship of any given individual to these kinds of experiences? First of all, most of us have experienced something like this. Certainly, I have with my mother and my grandfather. Grandfather was certainly back, and I'm not autistic from my point of view, back when I was about 10, something like that. Actually, him talking in my mind, saying that he died, and said, but don't worry, I'm fine, I'm well taken care of, and you don't have to worry at all. And then, of course, the phone rings, and my mother says, answers the phone, and she's really upset, and turns to me, and I don't know how to tell you, she says, and I say, it's okay. I was talking to Grandpa a little while ago, and he told me he was fine and that he had died, but not to worry because he is just doing okay. Everything's all right. And she looked at me as if I was a little strange, but this, and the same thing happened with my mother. But see, the thing with this is not overly unusual. People do things like knowing who's phoning them, knowing that they had the feeling that somebody died, and if you're close to these people, this is not uncommon. The engagement with mental telepathy on this level, a little bit more, let's say, complicated. A little bit more difficult because of the fact that we focus on ourselves so much. A little quiet in the mind, and things can occur in an instant. Because I'm talking about normal individuals now, right, Pat? Because that's the question. So, as we grow, there is a difference between, from my point of view, and I'm going to try and explain that just a little bit. In autism, there is a very closing of, and a kind of a hope to be in a quiet position with nobody around them in some cases. So in that quiet position, it's almost like a quiet that's self-imposed. There may be the possibility of perceiving others who are quiet in that particular level or position, and that would be in the emotional mind area. This is my understanding, but well, I'll just leave it. I'll say my opinion. And then at another level of mind that hasn't got everything to do or anything to do with too much with a personality focus. And that's why I'm drawing an opinion between, or a conclusion between these two. The autistic mind, for some, I don't think this is true of all, because there are varying degrees of autism. I think you might have read that if you research this, other than in podcasts. Now, some podcasts are going to be okay, some are not going to be okay. So you have to come to grips with that somehow along the line. So a space may be empty because they're not extending their need to engage with others outward. They're extending it inward. And that would be probably an emotional mind process. And at a higher state level, it's kind of a mind process, because the mind is quiet and can allow the engagement to be with others who are capable of engaging at that height or that level. And you can perceive them speaking clearly, and you can speak in your mind. And it's the mind that's speaking. It's not a construction of a personality. Okay, what am I going to say to this? It doesn't happen like that. That's how our personalities might identify it happening, but it does not happen like that. It's talking mind to mind. It is the you of you, something beyond the personality's construction, yet is a bit like the personality's construction. Strange way of speaking. I'm hoping that is clear. So the implication is here that it's not on a spiritual level. It's more, let's say, an altered state level. It's on a level that relates to the states that folks are in, still related to the personality's internal quiet, but still the personality exists because reactions are there internally. I hope this, apologize for not being able to explain even my thoughts on it that clearly, but if that makes any sense to you, Pat. And do these experiences occur on the astral plane connected to the personality? Well, there's the other problem. When you talk about the astral plane, you're already on the astral plane, every one of us. Any intensity related to an engagement with life is related to the astral plane. Any physical engagement, it's an aspect of the astral plane. It's also an aspect of the physical plane. If you have that capacity, it would be an aspect of the mental plane. Now, run into trouble a lot here because we have different definitions of what the mental plane might be. But that aspect is on the astral plane. Any personia's engagement relates to the astral plane. Is there an ability to move into a broader emotional, physical plane beyond our personality structures? Yes, that's often called astral travel. It's a level where you can engage out of body, but your body's still here, but it's an aspect of the physical. You can perceive your physical, literally, as a physical form, but you're moving out of body, literally moving. That's often related to a first level engagement that relates to a level of trust. This is where you learn whether you are okay being out there and not trying to manipulate, like you might do here, others for your own purposes, thus seeding your own idea as valuable in an engagement with you as the personality, still part of your personality. This is not an easy thing to hear if you can leave your body, because you can leave your body and try to impact on other people, and you might do that automatically to show how important you are and valuable you are, because you might have a tremendous inability to feel comforting or comfort in your own skin, just in your history. All of us have histories. Trying to override that history here would be helpful in overriding it when you're out of the system on a spiritual level, a much higher level within that plane or within the mental plane. Physical is still functional. Implication of the physical is not the body. It's the image that you travel with, because you're locked into having a body with your personality. You're locked into it. Therefore, your personality form indicates that it is physical, meaning it is an image that is there how you see you. And that's emotional, that's physical, and it's a version of mental. But that mental may be in the emotional system. That's why there's a lot of variabilities here. So, do these experiences occur in the astral plane? Well, yeah, the astral plane is huge. But it also includes your body. You're sitting here. You may be listening to something I say. And if you are, you're using the astral plane to engage with what I say. This is from this perspective. Your reactions are from your perspective. And you validate you first. Then you move towards attempting to understand whether there can be a fusion between what another person says and what you know must be true, beyond any doubt whatsoever. Why? Because that form is saying protect you in that file. This is just normal. And that's not a bad thing. It's just something that's there. It's just good to know that it's there. And if you do, then you don't always have to agree with yourself. You don't always have to agree with somebody else either. And it's the beginning of moving into a willingness to go beyond the interactive states that you happen to project within yourself. It's just how it seems to work. So, Pat, I hope that's okay. And if you would like, if you are uncomfortable with something, let me know. You have our email address. Take care, everybody. I wish you well. Now we're going to meditate, and Marlene will set something up for us. And have a really good 2 weeks, and enjoy yourself. I'll bring you out in the end.
गजाननं भूतगणादिसेवितं उमासुतं शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपङ्कजम् मूषिकवाहनमोदकहस्ता चामरकर्णविलम्बितसूत्रा वामनरूपमहेश्वरपुत्रा विघ्नविनायकपद नमस्ते Nitya Parameshwari Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Mamba Lalita Devi Jagadambe Janani Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Mamba Lalita Devi Tvam Ananda Sagari Namastasye 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 Namo Namaha Sarvamangala-mangalye Shive sarvartha-sadhike Sharanye Triambake Devi षट्वर्गवत्सलाये नमो नमः वन्दे भवत्र षट्वर्गवत्सलाये नमो नमः चक्रराजमहायत्र मध्यवर्तिन्ये नमो नमः चक्रराजमहायत्र
No, we'll just do the balancing and the grounding and have a good couple of weeks. Take care.